June 28, 1914, Sarajevo, Bosnia. It was a Sunday morning. The sky was clear. The streets were busy. Church bells echoed through narrow stone avenues as civilians lined the Apel Quay beside the Miljacka River. They had gathered to see royalty. No one knew they were about to witness the beginning of the 20th century's first global catastrophe. Within weeks, Europe would be at war. Within years, millions would be dead. And it would all begin with 2 gunshots fired from a pistol in the hands of a 19-year-old nationalist. This is the story of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and the chain reaction that followed. The political tinderbox. To understand what happened that day, you must understand the tension beneath it. Europe in 1914 was not peaceful. It was armed. The continent was divided into rival alliances. Germany, Austria, Hungary and Italy formed one bloc. Britain, France and Russia formed another. Each alliance promised mutual defense. Behind diplomatic smiles was deep mistrust. Nationalism was spreading aggressively, especially in southeastern Europe. The Balkans were volatile. The Ottoman Empire had weakened. New states were emerging. Ethnic groups demanded independence. Austria-Hungary was a vast empire made up of many nationalities: Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Croats, Bosnians, Serbs, and others. Governing them all was increasingly difficult. Serbia, a small but ambitious kingdom, sought to unite Slavic peoples into one nation. Many Slavs lived inside Austro-Hungarian territory. That made Serbia a threat. When Austria-Hungary annexed Bosnia in 1908, Serbia was furious. Many Bosnian Serbs believed they belonged with Serbia, not Vienna. The tension simmered for years. Then came June 1914. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand was heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. He was not universally admired within his own empire. Some saw him as rigid, others saw him as reform-minded. Ironically, he had considered restructuring the empire to grant more autonomy to Slavic groups. That reform might have reduced tension, but many nationalists did not trust imperial promises. On June 28th, Franz Ferdinand travelled to Sarajevo to observe military exercises and attend official ceremonies. The date was significant. It was Vidovdan, Serbian National Day, commemorating a medieval battle central to Serbian identity. For many Serbs, it was sacred. For Austrian royalty to visit Bosnia on that day felt provocative. Security preparations were minimal. The Archduke and his wife Sophie rode in an open automobile. The motorcade followed a published route, and along that route waited assassins. The conspirators. 7 young men stood spaced along the Apel Quay. They were armed with pistols and bombs supplied through networks tied to Serbian nationalist groups. One of them was Gavrilo Princip, 19 years old, thin, tubercular, intense. He believed that violence was necessary to free Slavic lands from imperial rule. He was willing to die for that belief. Each conspirator knew that if one failed, another would have a chance. The motorcade approached at around 10:10 in the morning. The moment had come. The bomb. The first assassin stepped forward. He threw a bomb at the Archduke's car. It struck the folded rear canopy and bounced off. The explosion detonated beneath the next vehicle in the procession. Officers were injured. Civilians were wounded. Smoke filled the street. But Franz Ferdinand refused to leave. He ordered the driver to continue to City Hall. The procession resumed. Inside City Hall, the mayor began reading prepared remarks. The Archduke interrupted angrily, saying he had come to Sarajevo on a visit and had been greeted with bombs. Yet the formalities resumed. the event concluded. The Archduke then made a decision that would change history. He would visit the wounded officers in hospital. The wrong turn. A new route was suggested to avoid the city centre, but communication broke down. The lead driver misunderstood the plan. As the cars proceeded, the Archduke's driver turned onto Franz Josef Street, the wrong direction. An officer shouted that they were off course. The driver stopped to reverse. The engine stalled, and by coincidence or destiny, the car had halted directly in front of Gavrilo Princip. Princip had failed earlier to act. He had retreated, disappointed. Now, suddenly, the Archduke was only a few feet away. He stepped forward, he drew his pistol, he fired twice. The shots. The first bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen, the second struck Franz Ferdinand in the neck. Witnesses later described confusion and silence before panic erupted. The Archduke reportedly turned toward his wife, saying, "Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." Within minutes, both were dead. The assassination had lasted seconds. Princip attempted suicide with cyanide. It failed. He was beaten by bystanders and arrested. He would never be executed. He was too young under Austro-Hungarian law. Instead, he received a 20-year prison sentence. He died in prison in 1918, but his act had already escaped him. It was now in the hands of governments. Vienna reacts. In Vienna, shock turned quickly into calculation. Some officials had already been seeking an opportunity to deal decisively with Serbia. Now, they had one. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for fostering the nationalist environment that led to the assassination. Investigations linked some conspirators to Serbian military intelligence contacts, though direct state responsibility remained murky. Still, Vienna wanted action, but Austria-Hungary feared Russian intervention if it attacked Serbia, so it turned to Germany. The blank check. On July 5th, Austria-Hungary received assurance from Germany. Germany promised full support, even if war with Russia resulted. This unconditional backing became known as the blank check. It was a pivotal moment. With German support guaranteed, Austria-Hungary prepared an ultimatum. The ultimatum. On July 23rd, Austria-Hungary presented Serbia with 10 demands. They included suppressing anti-Austrian publications and arresting conspirators. But one demand was explosive. Austrian officials would participate in investigations inside Serbia. That violated Serbian sovereignty. Serbia responded within 48 hours. It accepted most demands, but it rejected the one that compromised its independence. Austria-Hungary declared the response insufficient. Declaration of war. On July 28th, exactly 1 month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Artillery began firing across the Danube. The crisis might still have been contained, but alliances now activated. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany viewed Russian mobilization as a direct threat. On August 1st, Germany declared war on Russia. On August 3rd, Germany declared war on France. Germany invaded Belgium as part of its war plan. Britain, committed to Belgian neutrality, declared war on Germany on August 4th. In just over a month, Europe had descended into general war. The cascade. The assassination did not cause World War I by itself. The war came from years of arms races, alliance systems, imperial competition, and nationalist fervor. But the assassination triggered the sequence. The July crisis was a diplomatic failure of historic proportions. Each nation believed it was acting defensively. Each mobilization provoked another. The momentum became unstoppable. By Christmas 1914, hundreds of thousands were dead. By the end of the war in 1918, more than 16 million people had lost their lives. Empires collapsed, borders were redrawn, the Austro-Hungarian Empire ceased to exist, the German Empire fell, the Russian Empire descended into revolution, and unresolved tensions would eventually lead to another global war. Conclusion. On a Sarajevo street corner, a car stalled. A young man stepped forward. 2 shots were fired. They lasted seconds, but they altered the course of history. World War I was not inevitable, but once those shots rang out, the machinery of alliances, pride, fear, and power began to move, and no one could stop it. The 20th century was born in violence, and it began on June 28, 1914.